Is on that topic 4. But before the immune response can be either, first of all, by the action of the first line of defense, which is the innate immunity, and it can be either by the action of second line of defense, which is the action of humoral immunity and cell-mediated immunity within the body, either in the tissue or in the peripheral blood circulation. Here we are going to focus more, first of all, on the function of the cells of the first line of this first line of defense in the advent of the entry of a particular antigen. So immune response is just how the body recognizes and defends itself against foreign antigens, which you know which antigens are. They can be bacteria, viruses, fungi, toxins, and other complex chemicals. And the immune system works by recognizing antigen, neutralizing it, or eliminating the antigen entirely. Now, let's assume that a particular pathogen enters the body. When it's entered the body, it's going to encounter the cells of the first line of the defense, which is called, which can be either a macrophages, a neutrophil, a basophil, or dendritic cell. So if it is a macrophages, it will bind seemingly, and therefore it will attract the action of the interleukin 21, which is just a chemokine. I tell you, chemokine are just working using chemical gradient or concentration gradient. Wherever there is a immune reaction, it's going to increase its concentration at the area so that it can trigger T cells or complement system to go to the area. So a human body doesn't have any transportation system, but it can add a concentration in the area to notify the other part of the body that, look, there is the presence of an antigen in that very area. So the interleukin 21 would increase its concentration at the area where the antigen is. Then it will invite the T cell to the area. Now the presence of the T cell will also trigger the action of interferon gamma, which that interferon also acts using concentration gradient to activate the macrophages. And you know, at the activation of the macrophages, they are functioning by phagocytosis. Phagocytosis is just a process where the macrophages will extend its pseudopod and engulf the antigen, and within the antigen there are granules which have lysozyme within them. So it will engulf them and digest them into pieces so that the body can later remove them either via degeneration or by formation of pus on the surface of the skin. So this is immune response by cells of the first line of defense. That's why you are seeing macrophages and T cells. You are not seeing B cells here. Now, types of immune response. Be it either immune response by the first line of defense or by the cell-mediated or humoral immunity, there are two types of immune response. We have the primary immune response and the secondary immune response. But for you to understand this, you have to understand the bacterial growth curve. In the bacterial growth curve, when microorganisms are, let's say bacteria are suspended in an agar, they have to adjust and start producing enzyme that would give them the ability to digest that agar. So that stage is called a lag phase. They are acclimatizing, adjusting, and producing the enzyme. So they will technically do nothing. But when they finish producing the enzyme, they will start digesting the substrate, the agar. So you see that their multiplication will increase using their generation time. But when the agar finishes and their number is high, they will start competing on the agar, so they will kill themselves. So you see that the line will be flat in a stationary phase. And where there is entirely no substrate, the number of the microorganism will reduce because there is toxicity, there is waste in the media. So they are going to decline into that phase. So this is exactly what is happening. In the first situation, the body encounters the antigen, then it will involve in the activation of naive B cells and T cells. These naive B cells are called the plasma B cells. They don't usually work, they only work in differentiation and production of IgM first, then the memory cells. So this is very slow, and at this stage it is called lag phase because they are technically doing nothing, they are just producing their memory cells and the IgM so that they can prepare their attack. Then number three, the antibody production is very slow and low because they are producing that. Then the IgM are produced first. It lead to the formation of the memory cells. So at the first, the primary stage is very slow. It takes time and it's not rapid. Then the secondary immune response. This occur when the same antigen enter the body for the second time. It's like you come in contact with malaria for the first time. The body have to prepare, understand the malaria, produce the B cells, then it will mount an attack. So it's slow and it's very specific. But when you come in contact with malaria for the second time, already the body has memory cells, it is ready for the attack, so it is rapid. It has rapid, extremely specific, and it happens within short period of time. And it involves the process of the memory cells and the T cell exactly, most especially the T cytotoxic T cell. So in response, the reaction will be faster, stronger, and longer lasting. And it doesn't involve IgM, it involves the IgG because it's only the IgG which is located in the peripheral blood circulation. So from the chart you can see the differences, the rate of the reaction, how faster it is or how slower it is from the primary immune response. So this is a quick demonstration. At the presence of the first exposure, there's lag phase. It takes a very long time to respond because the naive of the plasma B cells are preferring to differentiate into memory cells. Then after they produce that, at the second exposure, it will be exponential pace where there is a very strong and faster reaction. Then when the antigens decline, then it already reach an apex or the plateau. So from there it will start declining and the body will settle again. So this is exactly what is happening even in the bacterial growth curve or the uh, immune response in the second and the primary phase. So this chart is just grammatical presentation of how the primary immune response is taking place and how the secondary immune response is taking place. You see antibody to A during the first exposure and the antibody to B during the second exposure. So these are the differences. Usually the primary exposure takes 4 to 7 days, whereas the secondary exposure or response takes 1 to 3 days. And it is lower concentration in the primary response, but this one is very high because already the B cells, memory B cells are produced. The duration is short-lived because there is no any activity, whereas in the case of the secondary response, the duration is lasting. Then the key players are naive B cells, which are the plasma B cells, and the T cells in the primary response. Whereas in the secondary response, already the naive B cells produce memory B cells and other differentiated T cells like the T helper cell and the T cytotoxic cell. So collectively, the reaction can be factored in or influenced by the following factors. One, the type of antigen. The type of antigen also determine how the response will be. If the antigen has several binding sites and it is very complex, therefore the reaction will be rapid, unlike those with the only one binding site. Then the route of entry of the antigen. An antigen can enter the body either by ingestion, so it will follow through the gastrointestinal tract, and you know there will be action of enzymes on the way. It can be either via inhalation, or it can be injection, or traumatic inoculation, or transfusion. All these are ways through this microorganism can enter the body. So by variation of the nature and the place where the antigen landed in the human body determines the rate of the immune response. Then the availability of the antigen presenting cells at the area of entry. In some certain places, if it is peripheral blood circulation, macrophages are there. If it is the tissue, you have the dendritic cells and the basophils, they are there. So it depends on the type of the antigen presenting cells available at the point of entry. Then there is antigen receptor site, that is the epitope. Some of the antigens may have different epitopes, and some their epitopes may not even bind to the antibody. So this is also an influencing factor during the immune response. Then there is antigen complexity, a situation where the antigen is antigenic but not immunogenic because it doesn't have or it is below 10,000 Dalton. So it is not within the molecular complexity to trigger immune response. Then there is the availability of the memory cells. Some situation, an antigen may enter for the first time and therefore the body did not have the memory cells to mount an attack. And there is a situation where the memory cells are still dormantly staying at the spleen and the lymph node, they are not sorted and they may not be released immediately inside the peripheral blood circulation or the point of entry of the antigen.